This is Robin's Jab 3. Very clearly, it's the inspiration for her official artwork or render. The point of this series is to explain what I think each render in Smash Ultimate could be based on, including how this one has a mistake. Stay tuned. This is part 2 of 3. Today covers Brawl and 4 newcomers, where most of the cool references are, just quietly. For now, who better to start with than John Brawl himself, Meta Knight. Meta Knight seems to be copying Marth for what that's worth. It's pretty hard to pose these ball-like characters in interesting or unique ways, and as such I found a lot of sorta similar poses, but nothing exact. It looks a little like the pose he strikes at the end of his F-smash, but it's way too generic to say for sure. Pit is very close to the end of his side taunt, however, and his win animation. They're not perfect, but close enough that it would be insane if these weren't the inspiration for this render. smashwiki also says it's apparently very close to the pose Dark Pit strikes in the Chapter 5 of Kid Icarus Uprising, which is a game that I need to finish. Dark Pit himself doesn't have very much official artwork, and his does not match any of it. He's holding the bow staff he uses in his final smash, which tells us straight away that this isn't a regular move that he's using. And going into training mode, we see that even in his final smash, he doesn't do this pose, so I guess this one's an original. It's so strange that they chose to give him the staff in both his Smash 4 and Ultimate renders when he doesn't use it in 99% of rounds. Zero suits Samus. First off, I'd just like to appreciate how much of a glow-up this one is from Smash 4, like, Jesus Christ, they remembered she's meant to be a bounty hunter, not a Barbie doll. That aside, sadly this one again matches no artworks or moves that I can see. She's clearly shooting the gun, but it doesn't match Neutral B. My other thought was her backwards roll or maybe a grab, but realistically this is yet another original. Yeah, I'll move on, just give me a minute. Samus is cool. Thankfully, Wario is easy. He's holding up the double W fingers, which is exactly what he does in this taunt, although his face is of course more exaggerated in-game. He can also taunt on the bike, which may be what they're going for. Either way, this is a common Wario W. Also, I haven't mentioned it at all for anyone else, but he hits his Smash 4 render when you jump. Let me know if you'd like to see this video, but for any older Smash games. Snake hits the codec call pose here in 2 of his win animations, but this is most likely a reference to just sort of the general idea of his codec calls, without one move specifically in mind. In the Metal Gear series, the Snakes very often communicate with a home base or whatever with these little radios, and in Metal Gear Solid 2, Solid Snake, or David, the guy that we play as in Smash Bros, uses a cochlear implant to talk, which is what he's doing here. He's not checking his pulse, which is what I thought he was doing for a while. He's touching an implant behind his ear to talk to his boyfriend. Ike. He who we like falls to the same ills as his brother Marth, in that this is a generic cool guy sword pose with no particular inspiration. Both Top and Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn Ike forms strike the same pose, which doesn't help. The best I can do is that his idle stance in Smash matches the same way he holds the sword in his render, for what that's worth. Come on, Fire Emblem. Pokemon Trainer. For Red, or the male Pokemon Trainer, he's doing the commanding pose that he uses when instructing any Pokemon to use any special move besides down B towards the direction he's facing. And he also does this in a win pose. It's pretty generic, but I can't really fault it, it fits. This is unsurprisingly similar to his annoyingly crunchy Fire Red Leaf Green battle sprite. Leaf, the girl, however, is a little bit more obscure. It could also be in reference to her Fire Red and Leaf Green sprite, but modified to be a little bit more different and girly. Or it could just be as simple as an original kinda cool looking pose. In any case, it doesn't match any of her taunts or win animations, so let me know if you find anything solid for this one. Squirtle tries to hit this pose in his render when he side taunts, but the little guy spins out every time. It has a passing resemblance to this artwork from Pokemon Channel, but more than likely this one's just meant to be cute and dynamic for the group shot render. Another Sakurai-ism that I've just noticed now is that they seem to treat Squirtle's tail like it's a solid club in Smash Bros. It has the same texture as his skin, the same hit sound effect as like a hard piece of the body, and he can spin on it. It's all very strange, really. Ivysaur could honestly have been pulled from a walk cycle, just tilted down a little and open the mouth. Add some vines if you feel like it, because no artworks or sprites match this one. I really like the way this one looks, but it is almost definitely just sort of a generic way to show off that it can attack with vines. Charizard looks like he's midway through an aerial maneuver, maybe up B. This one I suspect is posed like this specifically to make the group shot look dynamic, because if he was on the ground he would sort of be behind the others and get a bit overshadowed. Anyway, its head looks like it was traced off the Gen 5 sprite, and the hunched shoulders make me imagine it's blue sprite, but this one is realistically probably also original. Diddy Kong's render evokes a sort of idea of a silly dancing monkey, but his taunts and win animations are all slightly different. He's a very expressive fellow, but very bad for the premise of this video, sadly. They do get better later on. He touches his hat a lot in artworks, and his 2014 promo art is pretty similar, but I'm not convinced. Lucas comes from yet another game I can only pretend to know anything about. The rope snake character of his appears in his side taunt, but unsurprisingly given the source material, the Smash devs made this render up. To compensate, today's fun fact is that the rope snake in Mother 3 supposedly might be a reference to snakes in Zelda, which are called ropes. There you go. Sonic, strangely, does have references to talk about, but it's the other way around. Sonic Movie 1 and 2 both reference his ultimate render, at least if Ben Stiller is to be trusted, as well as Ninjala of all things. You remember that game? The trend you may have picked up on, that Brawl has way less cool references than the last video, holds true once again, however. Maybe his spot dodge? If I'm wrong, please, actually me Sonic fans. I promise it's okay this time, even though your mum told you it's rude to correct people. King Dedede has his down taunt, I guess. Since Brawl, he puts the hammer on his shoulder for his idle pose, which is also what the Smash 4 render is based on. It's not an amazing or solid reference, but it's probably what they were going for. Olimar finally brings us back to sanity. He's using his neutral special, Pikmin Pluck. He also does this in his intro animation. He pulls Pikmin in this clay artwork for Pikmin 2 and a couple of these from Pikmin 1. They just changed the color of it for the Wii re-release for some reason. But yeah, he's plucking his Pikmin. That's just a thing that they like to do in Pikmin. Lucario's render depicts his down special, Double Team. I've only just now learned that the counter is based off of Double Team, which is an evasion boosting move that does not do anything like this in Pokemon. The Smash devs really don't love Pokemon the same way they do Kirby, huh? Anyway, this one's a proper reference, which is quite nice. Down B. Rob is a reference to hit character Donkey Kong as he appears in the indie game Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS. But for real, this one looks like his spot dodge maybe, which is a neat one if it's intentional. Otherwise, he might just be spinning on you with side special. He has no real reference artworks, so fair play to them if this one's just meant to look cool. Toon Link's pose is based off this artwork from The Wind Waker. He seems to hit something similar when he uses neutral aerial, too. Wolf seems to be, similarly to Ganondorf, just a cooler version of his idle stance. High right arm, left arm low, wide legs, you kind of see the similarity. He's had this similar stance since Brawl. Villager only uses the net in his grab, and the pose is very similar, just adjusted for visibility. They do this a lot, where they take a move and just sort of twist them a little bit so it looks cooler in the render. Mega Man comes from my favorite game series ever, so I wish I had an interesting deep cut to talk about, but his render is just his jab facing right. It's simple, it works, and the jab is in turn based off of his NES sprite, so points for accuracy I guess, even if they closed his mouth. You should play Mega Man right after finishing this video, as well as liking, subscribing, commenting, etc. if you'd like to see me in your YouTube homepage again, please. Wii Fit Trainer, in a stunning turn of events, is my main, so once again I wish I had more to say, but this one is pulled directly from Side Taunt. Stretch those shoulders if you're in the English-speaking world outside of the USA. Rosalina and Luma are another case of the essence of a character being distilled into a generic render with no real reference. She commands Luma to do everything with her wand, and while you could argue that this is sort of mid-side special with a little twirl, I think it's just meant to be a cuter and more dynamic version of Smash 4's render, meant to show that they sort of work as a team, that's all. Little Mac's render is a direct pose reference from his counter, likely chosen to highlight the gameplay loop of Punch-Out. In boxing, good defense is the best offense, so making Mac's pose here be this hunched over, protective stance makes a lot of sense, even if he didn't use this pose for his down special. But he does, so that's a win. Greninja, similarly to Sheik actually, has a similarity between its air dodge animation and its render. Honestly, it could just be modified from the way that it jumps, but this is a pretty standard cool guy ninja pose, so I'm not convinced that it's one or the other. Given that Greninja transforms into Ash Greninja during its final smash, there could also be some influence from anime artwork or Ash Greninja in general too, but I'll mark down the air dodge for now. Brawler's pose is slightly similar to one of his taunts, maybe this win pose, or even exploding sidekick, but realistically it's an original pose for an original character. Gunner is also quite forgivably generic, but I feel like it matches their forward tilt a little too well for it to be a coincidence. And of course, it also seems to be referencing Samus's artwork in this game, because Gunner really is just Samus Jr. More on Samus, of course, in the last video. Sword Fighter could be pressing jab, or once again imitating his big brother Link, but it's fair to say this one isn't a reference. I really don't mind the Miis of all characters having original renders, that kind of makes sense. Palutena is pretty much just standing there in her idle pose, but looking a little cooler than Smash 4 while doing it. It's very similar to her Kid Icarus Uprising art, even with the leg slit thing. Which, by the way, I learned today that was changed in the pre-release to be less open, which is kind of weird. But it seems like standing there is half of the official artworks for this lady, so another one shouldn't be surprising. Pac-Man's render is a simple, happy-go-lucky, platforming mascot jump pose, which is pretty similar to his double jump animation in Smash. Smashwiki says that it seems to be similar to this artwork from Pac-Man Vs, but it's a ball with arms and legs, guys. There's only so many ways to pose him. Look at Kirby. Double jump. Robin is the first character we've covered with two separate poses in their renders. Both use the Levin Sword and the Thunder Tome, but both are weird for different reasons. The male one seems to be a cool looking generic wizard pose, but Robin hardly ever closes the book to hold like this. He snaps it shut for aura points after specifically 11 up smash, and during both F tilts, but I can't match anything to this specific pose. The female Robin render is a perfect match to their jab 3, the explosion. The obvious issue though is that she's using the wrong book for that. If you zoom in, you can see that the edge of it is yellow, which is the generic book. Fire Emblem fans, let me know if this is an oversight, maybe I'm just wrong. Shulk's render depicts his neutral special when he's selecting a Monado art, just tilted a little towards the camera again to see him better. Very, very fitting. I just wish his face was a little bit more accurate to how he looks in later Xenoblade media. Bowser Jr. has quite a few renders, so this one's a speed round. The kid himself is doing his side taunt, just without the hammer. Larry is original, Roy is original, Wendy is remaking this Mario World artwork here. Iggy is pointing like he's using the Mecha Koopa, but he's turned around because he's not like the other girls. Morton is original. Lemmy didn't even try, this is just his new Super Mario Bros. Render again. And Ludwig could be using down B, forward tilt, any attack where they sort of point. Whew. Duck Hunt appears to be midway through their jump, or more likely the up special, note the grippy feet on the duck. Not very interesting, but I mean it's a functional render. It would have been nice if the Zapper was in there too. Side note, dropping the duo from Duck Hunt Duo is a rare America W. Good job guys, it is clearly a trio. Ryu's arms crossed pose is likely a reference to this artwork from Street Fighter 2. But it's also equally likely that it's just an easy way to convey that the serious karate man is cool and serious. He crosses his arms a lot in Street Fighter artworks, and even when he loses a round by timeout, so I guess the render choice makes a lot of sense. Ken's gesture matches his down taunt, bring it on. I am a little sad that we got this over the notorious thumbs up Ken from the Leak era, but it's a fine one overall. He does the same beckon in his right win pose too, and Banana Ken in Street Fighter 5 seems to be doing it. The more you look, the more you see it. He does the same thing in a render in Street Fighter 6, a taunt in Street Fighter 6, probably a bunch of other places too, but you get the point. It's a good choice for such a cocky guy. Cloud's base render is a modified version of his idle stance, with his weight on the back leg rather than the forward one. This isn't dissimilar to his battle pose in Final Fantasy VII, but it's not super interesting to talk about. His Advent Children render seems to match the first hit of F Smash really, really well. I'm not a Final Fantasy fan, so if this F Smash is in and of itself a cool reference to Advent Children that I'm not understanding, then that connection would make sense. Otherwise, I feel like the devs picked this pose just to show off their neat F Smash animation. Side note, Brawl Ike seems to be copying Cloud here. Corn Man is boring as you'd expect. The male one is his generic standing pose, same as in Fates. I mean, I assume, I'm not playing that game. The female one could be inspired by their falling pose after jumping once, with the sword brought to the front of the body instead of the back maybe. The legs might be posed the same as a grounded side special 1. I'm not sure for this one, and I don't really care about Corrin as a personality enough to keep talking. Bayonetta, my beloved, I could talk all day about, however. I won't, for your sake, this is the last one for today after all. Her Bayonetta 2 design, which is the default in Smash, is clearly a reimagining of her official Bayonetta 2 artwork, just twisted a bit for visibility again. She does something similar to this in her side taunt. Similarly, her Bayonetta 1 ults are mirrored and adjusted versions of this pose from Bayonetta 1. Nice and easy, good renders. These poses are taken from the Bayonetta games, but combing through to find exactly which strings and taunts have her do these is a waste of both of our times. You should totally just go and play Bayonetta 1 right now and find it for yourself. I love propaganda. That does it for the Brawl and Smash 4 section. Make sure to subscribe if you feel like joining me for the ultimate finale in a week or two. Thanks so much for the support on the first video. I jumped from 40 something subs to whatever it is now overnight. It feels really great that a silly little video idea like this is interesting to other people too. For today, thanks very much and have a good one.